Shannon. I'm so excited that you decided to join me on my podcast.
I am so excited to be here.
You know, my goal for today is to learn something that I don't know about you. I feel like we've done a lot in the last few years, but I don't know a lot about your life before that. And I do know for sure that I'm going to learn some things about development because you're super, super smart. And so I can't wait for this conversation.
I'm excited.
So let's just start at the beginning, right? You know, you started out as an engineer. How did you find your way to be this amazing developer that you are today?
That's a good question. I mean, I get asked that all the time. So first of all, as you know, I'm a super nerd. I started as a super nerd. I married a nerd. I birthed nerds. So I started in engineering, and I was always on a track. I knew to do, when I went into college, to try to do something that wasn't a typical female course. So I did engineering. And
well, that's interesting because aren't you like one of a gaggle of girls? You have a lot of girls in your family, right?
There's 4 of us.
Yeah,
total.
But you wanted to do something that was...
And, you know, we're all the same. And interesting, this is very interesting. You know, my mother was a stay-at-home mom. And I think you know one of my sisters.
Yeah.
We are not shrinking violets.
Yeah.
So I don't even know where that came from, but we all kind of forged forward on our own thing. So I went into college, and my older sister didn't finish college, started, and that just wasn't her thing. And so I wanted to do something different. So I got into engineering and didn't really realize the impact that there were no women. I think there was 3 of us in engineering. And so I never thought anything about it. I've never really thought about being around a lot of men. Now, I also wanted to get out of Minnesota. I grew up in Roseville, and I had aspirations to kind of move, into some other area. So I moved to Charlotte. My sights were on moving south.
Really?
Yep, I had my sights on the southern mentality, southern men, whatever it might be. So I went into a plant in Charlotte, North Carolina, didn't know a soul. So I fulfilled my plan, but it wasn't really a good fit. So I came back a year later. And at that time, so I was in engineering, and I truly was working in the plant, working on designing printers, and it wasn't a great fit. So luckily, my manager and I've actually during this whole period of COVID tried to, it's been this reaching out and being, telling people that you're grateful for. I can't find him because he sat me down and said, I don't think this is a fit. What do you think? So he then found my job in engineering sales at IBM in Minneapolis, and that's how I transferred back to Minneapolis. So I was in engineering sales, which was a different stint, met my husband, and we got married. We both worked for IBM. And honestly, I'm taking the long story into real estate. One of us had to go. So I went out and just talked to friends, and I had some friends in the business, and they said, hey, it's fun, you should try real estate. And that's literally how I got into real estate.
Wow, that's great.
I went into brokerage, worked for Eberhard, which...
Oh, you did?
Old school. Bob Schoening.
Yeah.
And the paths of how I got to different places. Then my husband's job moved us to Chicago. Bob Schoening made a call to somebody in Chicago, connected me with LaSalle Partners, and it's like the story it was a series of people looking out for me.
Oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, so I'm really grateful for all. I look back and go, this wasn't by accident. People really helped me along the way. So I had a great experience at LaSalle Partners and stayed in the brokerage. I was on the brokerage side, mostly office for a majority of probably 17 years.
Wow.
And we moved around, went to St. Louis. I was with Crow, and then we came back to Minneapolis to be with family, like everybody does in Minnesota. And then I stayed home for a while with kids.
Really?
3 kids, yeah. I was home for 8 years.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Little known.
See, I'm learning new things.
I think people always think I was a forever working mother. I didn't. I stayed home for a few years, several years actually. And then came back when my youngest was in kindergarten, and again joined. Yeah, it's interesting you're asking me. This is making me piece this together. So I worked for Bob Schoening at Eberhard. He and Mark Nanny called me. I was home, and they had an assignment. They needed someone. They needed a third, and they begged and pleaded, and I wasn't going to do it. It was the best decision I ever made. So then I got back into work.
That's interesting.
So did brokerage, and then again, it was friends at Oppidan that called and said, hey, we're really busy. We need some help on development. Would you ever be interested? And I kind of looked at that as a cross between engineering and the brokerage, which I liked. And the rest is history. I've been at Oppidan for 16 years in development, and I love it.
Well, it's so interesting that you say that so many people had a role in helping you get to kind of where you're at and that you're going back and reconnecting with people. One of my strategic initiatives for 2023 is to connect with people that I haven't connected with for a while. And I'm going to I think about that and try to reach out to some of those people, as you become an empty nester, you have more time. It's like, okay, who do I really want to connect with? But I love that little take on it. I'm going to add that to that's really neat.
You're making me think through it. I really hadn't thought that much through it, but it really is those touchbacks. I think when you're younger, our younger selves, remember that?
Yeah, barely.
You're always looking forward, like what?
Oh, for sure.
Where can I go? I got to get there. I think you get to our point and you're going, well, it's not that we're there. We're here.
Right.
But I value all of those great relationships we've made in this business and in life, and that's what it's all about. And
we finally have a little bit of time to just pause and think about where we've come from and how we've gotten here, and even just to appreciate here. It's it's a really nice place to be, honestly.
It is a good place to be.
Yeah.
But we didn't know it then.
Well, I think we were always striving for something. I'm like you. I was always striving for the next thing and wanting, more. And when am I going to do this? And when am I going to do that? And, had kind of all these goals. And now I'm, it's being intentional about, being grateful for that journey, but also really trying to enjoy what you've got now, so.
And have you found yourself in a situation where you're trying to tell somebody younger, like, it doesn't matter, but you can't?
Yeah.
You have to live through it.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I really tell young people is it's just really about connecting with people and go meet with somebody and ask them who you should, who they could introduce you to, and it's all about those connections, and you just never know how that connection today is going to turn into something else, down the road. And we're working on a project right now that, we worked on a similar project in a similar area years and years ago, and all of a sudden it's like it didn't feel like that really made sense at the time because we didn't get what we thought we were going to, but now it's sort of a piece of the puzzle of what we're working on today, so it's kind of interesting.
Those are the most fulfilling.
Yeah.
I love not getting selected and then getting the call 1, 2, 3 years later. Those are the best because you go, all right, it was meant to be.
Well, you know what they say. You always want to be the firstborn, the second wife, and the third developer.
Firstborn, second wife, and the what?
Third developer.
I've been a third developer, so I can't ever be the firstborn. Hopefully I'm not the second one.
Yeah, no.
That's good, though. I like that. I've never heard that. I learned something.
Right? Yeah, but sometimes is a good answer, and then when something doesn't work, you can come out with a fresh idea or a fresh angle and learn from what didn't work with your predecessors, and then kind of make a win, and you look really good that way. So right?
Without trying. No.
Right? Yeah. So you went to Oppidan, and you just don't go from from broker to developer. how do you? Because development is not an easy career choice.
It's not, and I didn't know that. So that was probably the key. I didn't realize how hard it was, how long it takes to make a deal, and how long it takes to get paid. But I'm not a super money-driven person. I've never really worried about, I'm going to work on this deal because I get most commission. So I think that really suited me well without knowing that in development. When I joined Oppidan 16 years ago, we were small. We were, probably maybe doing gross $5 million worth of revenues. Now we're doing $600 million. So it was a different company then. Kind of bumbling through. We really did have to figure, every employee at Oppidan at that point in time was trying to figure out what they were doing every day.
Wow.
Because you had to do all pieces of it. So I think that was a great way to learn.
Yeah.
It didn't glare out that I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't know what I was doing. But it was the environment where you were allowed the opportunity to kind of figure things out. We've grown up, we're very process oriented. But I think getting into development, the brokerage is always a good relationship. Development truly is a relationship business. You got to trust. There's trust because it's a long process when you're working through even getting into city entitlements. You got to stand up and hopefully people trust you. I think developers can get a bad rap sometimes. But I think taking my, the discipline of engineering, the relationship part of brokerage, it worked. It
Yeah,
worked,
that
and it
makes
worked in a
total
company like
sense.
Oppidan. It
Yeah.
works in a company like Oppidan. We're small.
Very
We're still
entrepreneurial.
small. We're still small, even
Yeah.
though we're doing bigger things.
Yeah.
So it works.
And Oppidan was originally doing mostly retail. Is that what you were working on, or what were you working on at the beginning?
Wow. I mean, you talk about whirlwind of what I've done at Oppidan. We were 90, maybe 95% retail development when I joined.
Okay.
They were doing all the Gander Mountains around the country. We do mostly things around the country. We do more in Minnesota now. They then had another client, Camping World, and they needed someone to come in and manage that. And that's where I came in to help them with that relationship. Yeah. So all retail developer. I mean, Oppidan was a retail merchant developer for 31 years, for the first 20 years. And then there was this recession that occurred.
Yeah.
08, 09, which was pretty critical for us, for all of us, and it was critical for us too. We made it through, but that really opened us up to looking at things differently. I mean, retail wasn't a big place to be at that point in time, so we started doing fee development work. I oddly got into the oil and gas. I was doing transload facilities around the country and in Canada.
What is that?
Yeah. I mean, the only female developer. I'm out in North Dakota in the way out Canada, building railroad extensions and silos with materials for shipping and oil and gas, and it was crazy, but it was an opportunity. It was a client that we had from the retail side that went into it was called Carbo Ceramics, a proppant for oil and gas. Called and said, "Hey, would you guys, do you guys know anything about this?" And we're like, "No, but we'll help you out." Sure.
Yeah, of course we do.
So I did probably 10 transload facilities, which was interesting, very industrial. Not even industrial as we know it today. It was like out on the railroad. So did that, and then from within that period of diversifying, did some skating rinks, ice rinks. Here in Minnesota, did the Vadnais Heights, did one out in Santa Barbara. I mean, bizarre. We were just taking relationships, all relationship deals, and moving forward. And then I got a call from one of our architects that had a senior housing, which I thought was like apartments for seniors. I didn't know what senior housing was at the time. I said, "Would you guys be interested?" Sure. I mean, we're always open to looking at things, and that was 10 years ago, 9 years ago, I think it was. And that's really where I got started in the senior housing.
Wow, have you been doing senior housing that long? Wow.
The first look at it. And now I am 100% senior housing. And I will be at Oppidan for the rest of my career. I will be doing senior housing for the rest of my career. And I'm so grateful because it's truly a segment of real estate where you get to employ your heart. It's service. It's hard work, but it's great. I mean, I don't even like to talk about it because I don't want anyone to get my gig.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm lucky, and
That's
we're doing it all
awesome.
over the country, and we get to work with a lot of great operators that are truly inspirational in what they do for a living because it's not easy work. We're just the developers. They're the operators.
And finding the operator has to be a challenge. I mean, I think that's got to be the hardest
all of
part.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, we can do real estate.
Right.
We can find sites. We can build a building, but it's all about operating, and in particular, through these last 3 years of COVID and all the insecurities with safety.
Yeah.
It's we're busy. We're hand in hand with our operators, which we weren't in the beginning. We build it, turn it over, and say, "Let us know how it's going."
Right.
Now we're there with them, making sure that our seniors are safe.
Interesting.
But it's fun.
So, do you have more? You have, I think, a couple different operators that you work with.
We have locally in Minnesota. We work with Ebenezer, and they're great.
Okay.
Their relationship with Fairview and the U of M has been great. We've got a great project downtown. I think you've seen our University of Minnesota one.
Yeah,
which is
that's
super.
amazing.
I mean, that's just over the top fun. And then in California, we use a national operator there. We actually are using 2 different operators, so we're diversifying our operator network, which is great because we're moving around. We're in California. We're doing some work in the Southeast, the Carolinas.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Interesting. So let's talk about those 2 projects, maybe, but just because I've seen your project in St. Paul, and it's just fantastic. I mean, the amenities, isn't there like you can go pour yourself a glass of wine in the set, and the views and the, I mean, how do you even think of those amenities? I mean, you can go downstairs and have a meal, or you can eat in your room, right? Or your do you call them a room? It's not a room, like
Apartment.
Apartment.
Yeah.
So talk about all these amenities. I mean, it's really
Yeah, okay.
And how do you know what's going to resonate with your target market?
Yeah, and you're talking. This is in Prospect Park,
Right?
One at the University of Minnesota, which was kind of an industrial area when we first got started on that. Now it's just grown up all around us. So our thinking there immediately was to tighten up with the University of Minnesota and have all of the cross programming with the U to bring in cool educational programs, to get the seniors to get to go to the athletic programs, and then to be able to have things within the community, because we do live in Minnesota, that they can stay active and engaged. And additionally, we have a daycare on the first floor.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. So it's actually kind of
And it's a big property, isn't it?
it's a big property.
Yeah.
We have 282 apartments,
Wow.
biggest one in Minnesota.
Wow.
Biggest one of ours, even bigger than our California one. So we have a lot to fill there, and it's doing well. It's filling. But the difference at Prospect Park, even with our other senior housing projects in Minnesota, is we have very savvy seniors there. It's independent living, assisted living, and memory care. And memory care is full, which is good and tragic all at the same time, because
Yeah.
the need is there, and thank God we've got Ebenezer serving that component. But all of our seniors are able to engage with the daycare.
Oh,
They call
that's
them
so neat.
grand friends.
Okay, I love that.
So each kid has the elder senior that'll come down and rock and read, and it's working as we thought. And during COVID, the kids would go out in the parking lot, because it's a 10-story building, 7 and 10, and do their little routines, and the seniors could either be looking out the window or come down. So it's a joy to watch it. But those seniors keep us on our toes there more than any other community, because they are demanding, and they should. And what I've learned in this senior housing segment is, if you continue to do it like we thought it should be, like our parents wanted, you're going to be done. You got to go with what these seniors want, and they're as demanding as the market rate. Actually, maybe more, because they're there all the time.
Yeah, right. They've got a little more time on their hands.
A lot. So we do a lot of programming with the U. We've got some students that live there now.
Oh, really?
Discounted University of Minnesota students that live there, and in trade for reduced rent, they get some meals, and they have to give back hours.
Oh, I love
So
that.
it's great. It's so great, and the seniors love it. The students that would choose to do that love it.
Yeah.
But within the community, we have a golf simulator. We have a fitness room. We have this 7th floor where I think we were, where there's they host parties, which is out, attached to a rooftop deck with beer on tap, wine on tap. They can have social events. They can have meetings. They can have family events. We've got libraries. I mean, it's just really everything that market rate apartments have for younger, our
Yeah,
children,
right.
for seniors, and they take pride in it. They help, if there's a library, they keep it clean, and they keep it sourced with the books that they think are appropriate for them. So
Oh, that's
it's
super
pretty
neat.
fun. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Yeah, it's really an amazing project. And then just because you might want to go to Napa, I mean, how does that work? I mean, I want to go to Napa.
Yeah,
What
come to
should
Napa with me.
I
We'll go to
will.
this-
I'll
mean,
have to do
this
that.
place in Napa that we have we've got 3 now in California. 1 that's open, 2 that are under construction. Napa, Oceanside, which is by San Diego, and the Newport Beach. But the Napa one is pretty remarkable too. With the, it's a very curated wine experience there, and it's elevated. The finishes are, Minnesota nice, and our Prospect Park is very nice. You get into California, and the finishes are, kind of Ritz-Carlton senior living, and it's pretty nice. But the takeaway, the common element, whether it's a community in White Bear Lake, Highland Park, Prospect Park, Napa, is a socialization that kind of fills my heart.
Yeah.
When I walk through the front door and I see all of these seniors, there's always a group in the lobby, socializing. You don't have to socialize, but it's there if you want to, and even if you don't want to see it, I think is healthy.
Yeah.
To be around it is healthy.
Sure.
Because some people just aren't going to be that social. But it's a pretty, so I mean, it's something you and I could, we could dial into this in 20 years.
We'll see.
30.
I don't know.
I mean, whenever.
Yeah.
It's a good, it's a great environment.
Interesting.
It's not senior living. It's really an elevated social experience.
Yeah.
Which is healthy.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so I think it might even have been something you quoted that realistically, baby boomers, which is the largest chunk of population, haven't even really hit that stage yet. So, you've got a pretty long runway with this.
Well, if you look at statistically, demographically, the baby boomers are just coming in the next 3 to 4 years. So even though I know we're all in a difficult scenario right now for a lot of reasons. I mean,
Right.
I know 3 months ago we were all, labor or construction costs were impacting us. Then it was labor, which has been going on for a while, and now interest rates. So it is challenging, but I think I mentioned early, our senior housing projects take so long to get designed and entitled and priced and ready to go. We have not stopped on anything because we do know a lot of people are stopping, and it's a need. This is a demand-driven business.
Yeah.
I mean, seniors are coming, and they do want to get out of their houses, and we do need their housing stock for our children. So it's a really good natural progression. We just need to do a better job of, there are those that think staying home is healthier, and I don't think it's because I'm in the business. It might be, so you can call me on that. But I think getting out of your home at some point, particularly if you're alone, is really the right move.
I think it kind of depends on the person, right?
Sure.
For sure. I mean, but I think what works with that is like with my parents, they haven't gotten to that stage yet, but my mom would just thrive in a building that was more social, and my dad would be happy to have her thrive and stay at home,
happy.
right? Yeah. So it would be
perfect.
right?
It works
So
that
that's
way.
why it's perfect.
But you're right. It's not for everybody. I mean, honestly, percentage-wise, how many seniors do this? It's a lot less than you think, but it's still a lot.
Yeah, right.
And the number of seniors coming with baby boomers is going to double over the next 10 years.
Wow.
So we have to be ready. It's a
Yeah.
crisis. Actually, my next mission, you and I are always on a mission of sorts, right? So we build, I'm talking about all these very nice places, which is not affordable for all.
Right.
85% of the market is, well, no, not even 85. So you got we're building the top 15, then you've got the lower 25% that's typically covered by some sort of government programs. There's a big chunk that we need to figure out, and we need to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's not really there. That middle market.
Right. Where you make too much to go here, you don't make enough to
We got to figure it out.
Yeah.
So I'm
That's interesting.
I'm actually hoping that this this pause right now that we're in will maybe provide opportunities for some of those buildings that just can't stay the way they are,
Right.
and we'll bring them back down and offer that. I mean, services are services. I don't think you really get away from discounting those.
100%. Yeah.
You can figure out how to work on the rest of it. So it's coming, and there's a crisis looming if we don't figure it out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm happy to be part of it.
Yeah. Well, and kind of if anyone can figure it out, you can.
I don't know. I hope so. I've dabbled in it, and I haven't really. It's a tough one.
Yeah.
It is tough.
Yeah. Well, and I also understand that you do quite a bit of research to figure out where to put these. It sounds like you're getting great feedback from residents, so you're building what they want. But how do you even know? I mean, California is not an easy market to work in, and
It's terrible.
right? So
It's terrible.
I mean, how do you decide where you're going to go next?
Well, the type of communities we're building today, we really try to get into barrier to entry markets, so which makes it even harder, right? So it's not like someone's begging you to come to these sites; you got to fight for them. The most successful are to be. You often, I think a lot of people think about they should be where the seniors live. You really want to be where the children live. There's the
that
term,
makes
the
total
adult
sense.
daughter.
I never thought
The
about
adult
that.
daughter. Think of if your parents were to go somewhere, you want them someplace that you can,
Just
not that
did
it has to
that.
be next door, but easily
Yeah.
And not only do you want to have it convenient for you to get to, but maybe someplace that you can take mom and dad to walk, to have something to eat, to go to the grocery store, so you don't want to be out isolated. I think there was a thinking years ago, like out in green pastures where you look out the window and you see trees.
Interesting.
Kind of bring them into where the adult daughter and son.
Yeah.
I don't want to discount the sons, but that's that term.
Yep.
So we try to be more, central to where the amenities are for the family.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
Like Napa is a perfect example. Most of the residents there are not Napa. There are some that live in Napa, and that's where they want to be. But their children are moving, maybe their parents from San Francisco, to be near them. So it took us a while to figure this out.
Well, I think that's fascinating.
Yeah.
I never really thought about it, but that's so true, right?
So I'm not looking for 85 demographically. I want to make sure there's 80, because senior housing. Another thing that's unique is everybody thinks 55 plus. I mean, forget it, right? The average age in our senior housing communities is 82, 83.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's fascinating
Yeah.
too.
So certainly you want to see some of those growing demographics, but you want to make sure you've got the demographics of the adult children and the both wage and age. So
Interesting.
that's how we search.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of programs and data centers. There's a big mind behind all of this as to what might or might not work for sites.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Do you have a project that is your favorite, or a project that was the hardest, or any kind of extremes?
My favorite, I love them all for different reasons. At Prospect Park, I'm a U of M grad. I remember Mark Thomas, who's no longer, he was the CEO of Ebenezer, said, it'd be really fun because they've got that relationship with you. Let's find a site down there. We're like, right. So we found it. So I love that as a local. My hardest is one that I'm working on right now, and I am hopefully 2 weeks going in to try to get it approved. It's in Santa Cruz. We're kind of hanging over the ocean. We've got this unique relationship with Catholic churches, different orders within the Catholic Church, where we build on their, they've got a lot of
They do have a lot of real estate.
Amazing real estate.
It is, yes.
Let's just go down that road.
Yeah.
And they don't need it, and they're trying to monetize some of their land. But this site in Santa Cruz, we've got, people do not want you to develop it's a very liberal community. They cherish the monarch butterflies. They think we're there to just wipe out the monarch butterfly habitat and traffic, and it's been, in March it'll be 3 years, and I'm still not approved.
Wow.
But it's the best site ever. It's a perfect site for seniors, and we will be good neighbors. It's just hard to communicate that sometimes to people that just don't want you there. So.
Well, and change is hard for people. I think that's one of the developers' biggest challenge is, the neighborhood just doesn't want to see change.
Yeah, they don't. Every deal in California is tough. Every deal in California, all three that we've got, Napa, Oceanside, Newport, those are all 7-year entitlement projects. And I hope Santa Cruz is that long, but we're on our way.
Well, I wish you all the best on that one. I'll send good thoughts.
Thanks, I need it.
If anyone knows anyone in Santa Cruz, and you'll put a good word in, right?
That would be helpful.
Funny. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, you are a person that is one of the most giving people that I know. And you're involved in several organizations. Campfire is one of them. As a little campfire girl, was rocked the candy sales or the cookie sales, whatever it was. But you're involved in that. And what are some of the other, Campfire, are there other projects that you're kind of involved with?
Yeah, I do a lot of, I'm very involved in the Alzheimer's Association. We just did, we did that Hood to Coast run and raised money running that, which is really fun.
And that's something I'll never do, is run. So I'll meet you at the finish line with a beer or something, but
we had a few of those. That was good. We had a few people that did that, so we'd love that. That'd be great. So I'm trying to get more and more involved in that. And, I kind of spread out on a lot of different things that I've got a heart for kids that, need support in any way. Mm-hmm. I'm there for that. And I guess I'm kids and seniors.
Yeah, interesting.
So that's where I put my focus.
Yeah. So, so do you see doing this development thing forever, or it's just
You know, people. So I'm 61, and
Okay.
it's the number one
You look like
question.
you're 12.
Well, that's not the point, but thank you. What the number one question is, when are you going to retire? I actually feel like I've kind of figured it out now. I mean, I have balance, work-life balance, which you never do when you're raising kids. So why change anything? I have no plans to retire. I love what I'm doing. I'll be at Oppidan and I'll be doing senior housing. And when that, I think I'll know when I know, but I don't have any plans right now. This is it.
well, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Well, so I have learned a few things about you, and I've learned a little bit about development, and definitely a lot about senior housing. I mean, I think it's really interesting. I think how that has evolved, that industry has evolved over time, and you know, there's a lot of challenges I think that it faces, and I love that you are one of the people involved with trying to tackle those challenges.
Fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, thank you for spending some
Thank
time with
you.
me. This was so fun.
Thanks. It was great. I love
And,
talking to you. Always.
Yeah, well, the feeling is so mutual. Thanks very much.
Thanks.